Now, Washington and Beijing are both vying to be the top economic player in Africa. China is pouring billions of dollars in infrastructure projects and foreign aid in an attempt to woo the continent's growing economies, while some say the United States is lagging behind in that effort. Well, this week's Plugged In with Greta Van Susteren, USAID's Mark Green lays out the United States' approach to leveling the playing field with China. VOA's Jesusemeh has more.
Africa, home to some of the world's fastest growing economies, has caught the eye of investors around the globe, particularly Beijing, which has showered the continent with billions of dollars in loans and new infrastructure projects, including Kenya's railway, the Madaraka Express.
China is trying to position itself to take advantage of economic growth opportunities in Africa.
China pledging to do even more through its Belt and Road Initiative, a $1 trillion plan to finance and build railroads, ports, roads, and other huge projects in nearly 70 countries. Critics, however, warn that China is luring African countries into a debt trap, lending them money that may be too difficult to repay.
They build dependency, so the choice is self-reliance versus almost servitude. What they do are loans, and as we're learning more and more, often unsustainable financing that mortgages a country's future.
USAID Administrator Mark Green tells VOA contributor Greta Van Susteren the U.S. approach is different.
We ask for reforms. We ask them to respect certain rights and values. What we want for them is to become eventually trading partners, but equal partners.
China has pushed back on the criticism, saying it's about development.
They do, make the argument that there's no political strings attached, that we're not going to ask you to change your political system or to adopt our values. But as we've seen in instances already with the way that China has handled its relationships with other countries, that it's going to be asking at some point down the line, that's going to become an issue, and it will ask other countries to toe the line.
Some worry the effects of China's methods go even beyond the heavy debt burdens.
What China's doing is also enabling corruption in these countries, where the African elite or governments are really making backdoor kickbacks, backdoor agreements and opaque agreements that are not really privy to transparent interactions.
U.S. lawmakers, in part responding to China's growing influence in Africa, have passed legislation known as the BUILD Act, which would set up an agency to help the U.S. invest more in the continent. Experts say it could give the U.S. a boost in the tug-of-war with Beijing over Africa. Jesusemeh, VOA News, Washington.